Okay, so product market fit.
Yeah.
It's the dream, right? We all want it. Customers practically begging us to take their money.
Right.
But how do we actually get there?
Yeah.
When everyone's always talking about product market fit like it's some magical thing.
It is. It's true. It gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
But the thing that's so interesting about this first round capital framework that we're going to dive into today is they've really, I think, cracked the code, especially for B2B companies,
Okay.
in terms of breaking this down into stages
Okay.
so that it feels more like a roadmap.
And I love a good roadmap.
Yes.
Give me all the steps. And I'm also very excited because we have some really juicy stories today.
Yes.
We're talking plaid, verkada, looker,
Fast.
to really see how this plays out in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, because while the concept of product market fit might seem straightforward, what I love about this framework is that it provides just this new level of clarity.
Okay.
It's not just about, like, do people like what I'm building? It's about understanding the nuances of customer satisfaction, demand, and efficiency.
Okay, let's talk about these nuances then.
Yeah.
Because I want to unpack this idea of extreme product market fit.
Yeah.
What is that?
So it's one thing to kind of stumble upon a product that people seem to like, but to achieve extreme product market fit, you really need to build a system, a repeatable process for finding and serving your ideal customer.
Okay.
It's about moving beyond those one-off wins and creating something that's truly scalable.
So no more happy accidents? Got it, got it. So we need a system. But what makes it extreme? Is it just a ton of customers saying that they love your product?
It goes deeper than that.
Okay.
It's about need, not just like, when we're talking about customer satisfaction, think about the difference between like liking a new coffee shop in your neighborhood versus depending on your morning latte to function.
Yeah. Okay, so no more lukewarm lattes, right? We need them to be hooked
Yes.
from the get-go
Yes.
and repeatable.
Yes.
It can't just be a fluke.
Totally. And that's why, first round capital breaks it down into these three key dimensions that really define this. So we've got satisfaction, which we touched on.
Okay.
Then there's demand.
Okay.
And finally, efficiency. And efficiency is the one that I think a lot of companies, especially early on, tend to overlook.
Okay, so satisfaction we talked about, like they gotta need it, they can't just like it. Demand, I'm assuming that's like the, lines out the door. But in the B2B world?
Exactly.
Okay.
But it's more nuanced than just like sheer quantity of leads. We're talking about your ACV, like your average contract value.
Yeah.
Where those leads are coming from. Are they inbound or like, having you chase them down?
Yeah.
These are all signals of true market demand.
Makes sense. And nobody wants to be, that founder that's like emailing their entire contact list being like, please, will you just take a meeting with me?
Exactly.
So we want those warm intros, those inbound leads. But you mentioned efficiency.
Yes.
Why is that so important even in those early stages? Because I feel like, when you're first starting out, isn't it all about growth?
So think about it this way. You could have a product that everyone says they love, and they're lining up to buy it.
Yeah.
But if it costs you a fortune to acquire each customer, your success won't be sustainable.
Yeah.
You're going to burn out, and your business is going to collapse.
Yeah. It's like that saying, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why unit economics really matter, even early on. So you need to understand how much it costs to acquire a customer, how much they spend with you, and how long they stick around. And this is where understanding your LTV, your lifetime value, becomes so crucial.
So don't wait till you're, burning through cash to realize your business model just isn't scalable, I guess, right?
Exactly.
But how does this actually play out in the real world?
Let's talk about Plaid, because they are a perfect example of a company that obviously has found massive, massive success. But it was not without a few twists and turns along the way.
Okay. So we're talking about the fintech darling that everyone knows and loves today.
Yes.
But it wasn't a straight shot.
Not at all. So they started with a consumer budgeting app.
Okay, which, let's be honest, isn't exactly reinventing the wheel.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of budgeting apps out there.
Exactly. And it wasn't exactly setting the world on fire.
Right.
Customers liked it.
Yeah.
But they weren't relying on it.
Okay.
And it wasn't clear how they would create a sustainable business model around this.
Okay. So what changed? How did they go from, budgeting app to being like the backbone of fintech?
It actually came down to a chance encounter. Their friend was an engineer at Venmo. He approached them and was like, hey, can we just license your back-end tech?
Wow.
And they suddenly realized, oh, wait, what if the real product here isn't the consumer app? What if it's this bank integration technology that we've built?
So they almost missed their true calling because they were so focused on that initial product instead of like the problem that they were really solving, right?
Exactly.
Like they were so close to having all the right ingredients, but they hadn't figured out the recipe yet.
Exactly. And this is what I love about this framework is it really highlights that there are these four distinct levels of product market fit. It's not a binary. You have it or you don't. There is a progression. And each stage comes with its own set of challenges and opportunities.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So let's start with level one,
Right.
nascent. This is where most startups begin, right?
Yeah.
At this point.
100%.
Yeah.
And at this stage, it's less about, perfectly polished solutions and more about just identifying like what is the right problem to solve. You're searching for that small group of customers who desperately need what you're building,
Yeah.
even if your solution is still a little rough around the edges.
So it's okay to be scrappy at this point as long as you're solving a real problem. Do you have any examples?
Oh, yeah. So Ironclad is a perfect example of this.
Okay.
So they're killing it now
Yeah.
with their digital contracting platform.
Totally.
But in the early days, they were far from a polished tech platform.
Okay.
They literally started by acting as like human AI
Yay, what?
for legal paperwork,
Okay, so they were like a concierge service for contracts.
essentially. So Jason Boeing, their co-founder, he was a lawyer who saw this massive gap in the market for legal tech that actually worked for lawyers, not against them.
Yeah.
So he started by automating parts of his own practice, like he was even responding to emails as the Ironclad AI.
Oh my God.
Talk about scrappy.
That's amazing.
No.
But I bet like those early experiences of actually like doing it themselves were so crucial in figuring out what the product should be.
100%. And that's a key takeaway from that nascent stage, right?
Yeah.
You're not just building a product in isolation. You are observing, you're
Yeah.
learning, and you're constantly refining your understanding of who your customer is and what they truly need.
Speaking of like getting your hands dirty, what about Verkada? They're another company that I feel like really went above and beyond to like understand their customers in those early days.
Absolutely. I mean, they were relentless in their pursuit of customer feedback. They were going on site, installing cameras themselves, constantly iterating based on what they learned. We're talking like late night security camera installations.
Wow. Commitment.
They were not afraid to get their hands dirty.
It's that level of dedication that I feel like really sets apart the companies that find product market fit from the ones that don't.
Yeah.
But even with that early traction, right? Like even when you have a product like Plaid where it's like, this is groundbreaking, it's not always an instant win.
You're right. And they had this fantastic product, but they had to convince everyone else that the market for it even existed.
It's true. Imagine being that far ahead of the curve that you have to like educate the market before you can even dominate it.
100%.
That's wild. All right, well, let's move on to level 2, developing.
Okay.
So we're moving up.
We're moving up. This is where you start to see those first signs of repeatability.
Okay.
So you found a product that, a few dozen customers need. You're generating some revenue. Things are feeling a bit more real.
Okay, so there's a pulse. We're not at like fish jumping in the boat stage yet, but
Yeah.
well, you got a pulse. What are some of the things that companies really need to be focusing on at this stage?
It's about building upon those early wins
Okay.
and turning them into a more sustainable growth engine.
Got it.
And this is where you start to transition from like willpower-driven sales to feeling some real market pull.
It's like that aha moment,
Yes,
right? Where it's
yeah.
like, oh, maybe we are onto something.
Yes, exactly.
But at the same time, I feel like there are still so many unknowns.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Right.
This is where I see a lot of companies get stuck, honestly, because they're caught between like the excitement of that early traction,
Yeah.
but also just the sheer terror of trying to scale without breaking. So many unknowns, so many things changing so quickly.
Right. So how do you know if you're even headed in the right direction? What should you be paying attention to?
Data. This is where you can start to bring in some of those key metrics
Okay.
that give you a little bit more guidance. We're talking things like your magic number, your early net revenue retention.
Okay, hold on. Let's unpack those for a second.
Sure.
Because I know those get thrown around a lot, especially in the B2B SaaS world, which many of our listeners are in.
Yes.
But for someone who's maybe just dipping their toes into this world, what do those actually mean?
Absolutely. So your magic number, it's basically a measure of how efficiently you're turning your marketing spend into revenue.
Got it.
It's a quick way to gauge if your marketing efforts are actually paying off.
So it's not just about getting leads in the door. It's about, are they the right leads? Are they actually converting?
Exactly. It's about quality over quantity at this
Oh,
point. And then you've got your net revenue retention, or your NRR.
okay.
And this tells you how much revenue you're keeping from your existing customers.
Okay.
So we're taking into account upsells, cross-sells, churn, the whole 9 yards.
So it's like a measure of how happy your customers are
Yeah.
and how well you're growing revenue from like that existing base.
Yes, exactly. So ideally at level 2, you want to see a strong magic number,
Okay.
which means your marketing is efficient, and you want to see a really healthy NRR, hopefully positive,
Got it.
which means your customers are sticking around and spending more.
They like you. They really like you.
They really like you. Yes.
All right. So we're tracking those metrics. We're feeling good about this early momentum, but
There's always a but.
there's always a but. What are some of the common pitfalls that companies hit at level 2?
One of the biggest ones is underestimating the importance of marketing.
Okay.
Because in the early days, you might get away with, relying on word of mouth, your network.
Yeah, like your LinkedIn connections can only get you so far.
Exactly. But to truly scale, you need to start thinking about a more systematic approach.
So you can't just be that scrappy founder in their basement anymore.
It's time to level up that marketing engine.
I like it.
And, going back to Looker,
Oh, yeah.
back in their level 2 days, they were so focused on building that early momentum.
Yeah.
They knew they had this incredibly powerful product,
Yeah.
but they also knew it wasn't enough to just, hand over the software and hope
Right.
for the best.
It's about providing that full package.
Totally.
So what did they do?
They were incredibly hands-on with their early customers. I mean, they weren't just selling software, they were selling a solution.
Okay.
They were in the trenches, teaching their customers how to use the product, making sure they saw the value.
So they were almost like a data consultancy
Yes.
that also happened to have this killer platform.
Exactly.
And I bet that like hands-on approach was key to building those relationships early on.
100%.
So that then they did become those like word-of-mouth champions.
Exactly. And it allowed them to really refine their sales process, understand what resonated with customers, and ultimately build that repeatable model for success.
Got it. And speaking of repeatable models, what about those unit economics we were talking about earlier?
Right.
How does that come into play at level 2? Because like we can't just throw money at the problem forever.
Right. Eventually, you actually have to make money.
Exactly.
So it's a balancing act.
Okay.
Because you don't want to stifle your growth by, prematurely optimizing for efficiency,
Yeah.
but you need to have a plan for building a sustainable business.
So start thinking about those unit economics early on, right? Like don't wait until you're burning through cash to be like, oh, shoot, this isn't actually scalable.
It's like building a house, right?
Yeah.
You don't wait until you put the roof on to check if the foundation is solid.
Love that analogy. Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. We're seeing some early traction. Now we need to start thinking about how to really scale this thing.
Yes.
Let's move on to level 3. Strong product market fit.
Okay, things are getting exciting now.
This is where it gets really good, right?
This is where, those classic PMF stories that you hear, like founders beating customers away with a stick.
Yes.
That's this level.
Okay.
But it's also where, new challenges emerge.
Right, because scaling too quickly can be just as dangerous as not scaling at all.
100%.
It's like trying to handle a fire hose when you're used to, like watering your plants with a watering can.
That's a great way to put it. You need the infrastructure in place, you need the systems, you need those processes
Yeah.
to be able to handle that influx of customers and still make sure that you're delivering a really excellent experience.
So strong product market fit is as much about operational excellence as it is about, product brilliance.
100%.
Okay, I love that. So give me some stories. Who has navigated this stage really well? What can we learn from them?
Let's talk about Retool,
Okay.
because their CEO, David Su, I love how he described this stage.
Okay.
He's like, imagine a geyser exploding.
That sounds intense.
Right?
But I also imagine that's a pretty accurate way to describe like rapid growth.
Oh, yeah. And he said they didn't have that aha moment until they hit a few million in ARR. Before that, it was just like head down, grinding it out customer by customer. But once they hit that tipping point, it was like things just exploded.
Wow, like they tapped into some like hidden reservoir of demand.
Yes, exactly.
That's amazing.
And, Lattice's CEO, Jack Altman, talks about this too.
Okay.
He said, like, at one point they were practically buried in leads, didn't even know where they were coming from.
Okay. That's a good problem to have, I guess.
It's a good problem, but it's still a problem.
It's a lot to manage.
Because you have to figure out, like, how do we actually handle this influx?
Right, and how do you not mess it up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's why building that strong foundation in the earlier stages is so critical.
Yeah.
You need the right people, the processes, the systems
Yeah.
to be able to handle that type of hypergrowth.
Totally.
Yeah.
But even with like the best preparation in the world,
Right?
this still sounds like a wild ride.
It is.
So how do you, like, hang on, how do you make sure you're not veering off the rails?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
Let's go back to our friends at Looker for a second.
Okay.
Remember what we talked about their, like, freakishly accurate planning? Like, they did not miss a bookings plan in 7 years.
7 years. That's unheard of.
I know.
How is that even possible?
It comes down to, like, such a deep understanding of their ICP, their sales process, the market.
Okay.
They had this system for forecasting
Yeah.
that was so accurate that it allowed them to scale really rapidly without overhiring spenders.
So it wasn't just like intuition or luck. This was like a data-driven approach to growth.
Data-driven, they knew their numbers inside and out.
That's incredible.
And I think it highlights a really crucial point about, like, this strong product market fit it's not just about building a great product.
Right.
It's about building a great company.
Yes.
It's about making sure everything's firing on all cylinders, like across every single department.
Okay, so we've got that solid foundation. We're seeing that strong growth. The
Yeah.
systems are in place, but where do we go from here?
This is it. This
Yeah.
is the top.
Okay.
This is level 4,
Okay.
extreme product market fit.
Ooh, extreme. Okay, so what does that even mean?
This is the realm of companies like Salesforce, Stripe, Atlassian,
Okay.
companies that seem to just defy gravity
Yes.
with their, like, unstoppable growth and market dominance.
Yeah. This is the holy grail we've been talking about, but it's not even just about like reaching the top of the mountain, right?
No.
It's about like staying there.
It's about staying there
How do you not fall off the other side?
because everyone's gunning for you at that point.
Exactly. So how are they doing this? How are they staying ahead of the curve and maintaining that incredible momentum?
I mean, it's a combination of factors, right? But I think one of the key elements is knowing when to expand.
Okay.
It's about being strategic. It's about being disciplined, not just like chasing every single opportunity that comes your way.
So it's not just about growth for growth's sake.
No,
Got it.
it's about choosing your battles wisely. Max Rhodes, the founder of FAIR, talks about this.
Okay.
He said they didn't rush into new markets. They didn't rush into new product lines until they had truly, like, nailed their core business.
It's like you need to build the strong foundation before you start, building the penthouse.
100%.
Yeah.
They waited 3 years
Wow.
before they even expanded internationally
Okay.
because they wanted to make sure that their systems, their processes, those unit economics
Yeah.
were rock solid before they, took that leap.
Interesting. And clearly it worked out for them. So
Really?
their patience and discipline paid off.
100%.
I don't know.
It's a good reminder that sometimes the best way to go faster is to slow down, take a breath, and make sure you're actually ready for that next level of growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Like make sure all your ducks are in a row before you.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And Rhodes talked about, like, how he knew they were ready to expand when he felt like they were pedaling at half speed. Like, they had the bandwidth.
Okay.
They had the resources to be able to support a much, much larger business.
Got it. It's like that feeling when you're running a race and you're like, okay, I still have more in the tank.
Yes.
I'm not spent yet. I'm just getting started, which is a really cool feeling.
Amazing feeling.
Yeah.
And so once you reach that point where you have that stability,
Yeah.
then you need a framework for, like, okay, how are we actually going to expand our TAM?
Right. Because there are so many different directions you can go in.
So many different directions. And
Yeah.
Rick Song, the founder of Persona, he has this great model for this
Okay.
that really resonated with me. He talks about expanding your TAM by essentially, like, remixing these 3 key components: your product, your market, and your buyer.
Okay. I'm listening. Break that down for me.
So you could create, like, new product use cases
Okay.
to target different market segments. You could even go after entirely new buyer personas within your existing market.
Okay. Got it. So it's not just about like selling more of the same thing to more people.
Right.
It's like, okay, we have this thing. What else can we do with it?
Totally. Think about Atlassian.
Okay.
They started with Jira, which is their, like, flagship product for software development teams, right?
Right.
But they didn't stop there. Then they were like, okay, well, what if we sell this to security teams?
Okay.
They created new products like Confluence, which is their internal wiki.
Right.
They even started acquiring companies to expand their reach even further.
It's like they took that winning formula
They did.
and just found a way to remix it for these totally different audiences and use cases.
Exactly. And I think what's really important to remember is that each new product or market that they entered that required its own product market fit journey. It's
Right.
not like you do this once and then you're done.
Right, right. You have to keep iterating on the iteration.
Constantly. You're constantly iterating, you're experimenting, you're adapting.
It sounds exhausting, but I imagine also incredibly rewarding.
It is. And, it's important to remember that even when you have, all the best laid plans, you have an amazing team, it's still hard.
Yeah.
Building a lasting company is hard work. Christina Cacioppo from Vanta talks about this.
Okay.
She talks about like the emotional roller coaster of it all, especially those early days.
Yeah.
The self-doubt, the
Yeah.
uncertainty.
Totally. It's like you're navigating uncharted territory. You have no idea if you're going in the right direction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just have to be resilient and keep iterating and experimenting until you find that winning formula. Celebrate the wins, learn from the failures, and never give up on the vision.
Which is easy to say.
It's hard to do,
It's hard to do.
But I think, surrounding yourself with a good community, people who get it,
Yes.
can really help with that. So
100%. That's what we're here for. We're all in this together. And I think the more that we can all share our experiences and our insights and our lessons learned,
yeah,
the better equipped we'll all be to navigate this crazy world of product market fit.
100%. Well, on that note, as we wrap up our deep dive today, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners? I do. I have a question for everyone listening. Think about a company that you really admire, a company that you think has really cracked the code of extreme product market fit. What's one thing you can learn from their journey, and how can you apply that to your business today?
That is a fantastic question. It's a great reminder that, like, every company was once a startup grappling with these same things.
Totally.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with me. Until next time.